Chapter 13. Go ye into all the world. Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Mark 16:15. From its inception, King's Garden was very missionary-minded. In fact, even before there was a King's Garden, our King's Teens weekly high school clubs were concerned with missionary needs. One couple, who were counselors in the club which met in our home, went to Germany as missionaries. They wrote back to us of the need for clothing and food which they saw while ministering to the people in their area. Our club began to gather clothing and food and sent several boxes overseas. The family who was in charge of the King's Teens work in the Yakima Valley went to Japan as missionaries. When a man who had been a frequent speaker in our clubs told us he and his family were going to China, the club members decided they would help support their little girl. Each month, part of the offerings of the clubs was sent to help and her support. All of these scenarios helped to focus our eyes on the mission field. The impetus was given to start a missions department at King's Garden when a family came to us from Australia. Mr. and Mrs. Lyle Lush and their 3 children came to King's Garden, saying they had been called by God to come to King's Garden as missionaries to help further the work of other missionaries. After many meetings, we all agreed the Lord had indeed blessed us with this family. Mr. Lush became the head of our missions department and did much to help us to further the cause of missions. Our slogan became, "A missionary to the missionaries." We did all we could to help. King's Garden would often host missionaries for weeks, either before they left for the field or upon their return for furlough. While they were with us, the missions department would do all they could to line up speaking engagements for those desiring to do deputation work. We could provide help with purchasing supplies for them wholesale, printing their prayer letters, and helping with their packaging. When the time came for them to leave by plane or boat, one of the workers would provide transportation for them to see that their supplies were placed on the dock for shipment. It was a joy to have so many missionaries passing through the garden, allowing us to meet them and have fellowship with them. Our first missionary rally was held in February 1955. Because of the crowds of people who attended, our high school auditorium was far too small. We knew we would need more space for the next one the following year, both for the meetings and for the display booths of the various mission societies. The next year, a tent was rented and erected on the grounds and served as the meeting place for all the services. The booths from the various missionary societies were set up in the gymnasium in the boys' dormitory. Because it was cold weather, the men piped steam into the tent, which made it fairly comfortable. These conferences have been held each year since and have grown both in numbers who attend and also in pledges of money to help in missionary work. Missionaries come from all over the world to be there and enjoy being with others of like mind. They are also allowed to tell of their work and what some of their needs are. Especially interesting has been the session for the women, as women missionaries have told of their lives in the field, mentioning the hardships they have been called to go through. Hearts have been greatly stirred. At these conferences, people have found the Lord as their Savior. Others have been called to the mission field as a result of attending the meetings. Many interesting incidents have happened. One evening, one of our workers was singing a solo in the tent. As his beautiful baritone sound rang out, a man was walking along the road near the garden and heard the song. He came to stand in the doorway of the tent, listening intently. After the song ended, he sought out a missionary standing near the door, asking him to help him find Christ. The usual procedure after the conference ended was to hear our workers tell us that they had received a call to the mission field. About 75 of our former workers are now serving the Lord in various parts of the world. In addition to this, thousands of dollars have been pledged to help in the support of missionaries. One night during each conference week is designated as a Young People's Night, and King's Teens Clubs come to the meeting in a group. Young People's Societies from churches also attend, and of course, our own school children. This night in the week is always a very fruitful time with many of these boys and girls finding the Lord as their Savior. Each morning during the conference week, students from our schools are brought over to the tent for one of the sessions. One year, a real revival broke out among our high school young people. Many lives were cleansed and purified, which made a big difference in the spiritual life of our school. A Bible school that met twice a week was also started by the missions department because many people were interested in attending such a school. Many of our workers availed themselves of the opportunity to learn more about the Bible. Later, the school grew to the point where a daytime Bible school was started in addition to the night school. This school was named King's Missionary Training Institute, with Mr. Lush in charge. It catered to the person who is looking towards the mission field and desiring practical training along with Bible study. Here, they were allowed to receive practical training in many different locations. These included mechanical work, printing, radio communications, teaching methods, nursing, cooking, and many other trades. Jesus commissioned us to go into all the world, and King's Garden has done all we can to take this command seriously. Mission work has always been a part of our ministry, and it always will be. Just as I mentioned in the chapter about our schools and teen ministry, and how we have barely scratched the surface of what God has planned in that area, I feel the same way about missions. We've only just begun to see all that God has in store for the work of missions through King's Garden.